Miranda Wells had always loved the quiet of the night shift at Blackmere University's rare books collection. The gentle hum of fluorescent lights, the whisper of old pages, and the comforting smell of aged leather bindings usually made her feel at home. Tonight, though, something felt different. The silence had an expectant quality, like a held breath, and the shadows between the shelves seemed deeper than usual. She had taken the night shift position 3 years ago, fresh out of her master's program in library science. While her classmates had sought out prestigious positions at modern institutions with gleaming glass walls and digital archives, Miranda had been drawn to Blackmere's Gothic architecture and its reputation for housing one of the most extensive collections of obscure historical texts in the country. The library's massive stone walls and wooden shelves, worn smooth by generations of searching hands, spoke to something in her soul. She wheeled her cart down the narrow aisle between towering shelves, the wheels squeaking slightly against the worn marble floor. The sound seemed louder than usual in the empty library, echoing off the vaulted ceiling high above. A restoration project had revealed a previously overlooked section behind a false wall, and Miranda had volunteered to catalog its contents. Now, at 11:47 p.m., she was beginning to regret that decision. The discovery of the hidden section had caused quite a stir among the library staff. The false wall had been revealed during routine maintenance, when a worker's tool had punched through what should have been solid oak paneling. Behind it, they found a small room lined with shelves, apparently sealed off sometime in the 1920s. No one could explain why the section had been hidden, or why it didn't appear in any of the library's floor plans. The newly discovered shelves held an eclectic mix of volumes: scientific journals from the 1800s, theological debates in Latin, and what appeared to be personal diaries with no attribution. The books themselves seemed odd, some bound in materials she couldn't quite identify, others marked with symbols that made her eyes hurt if she looked at them too long. As she worked her way through the collection, a loose page fluttered from between two books and landed at her feet. Miranda bent to retrieve it, her fingers brushing against paper that felt oddly warm to the touch. The text was written in an unusual script that seemed to flow like water across the page. She blinked, and for a moment the letters appeared to shift and crawl. She told herself it was just I strained from the late hour, but deep down, she knew better. In her years of handling rare manuscripts, she'd never seen anything like this. Probably fell out of one of these unmarked journals, she muttered, trying to match the paper's age and style to the surrounding volumes. But none seemed quite right. The page's edges were too crisp, its surface too pristine for something that should have been gathering dust for decades. She ran her fingers along the paper's edge, noting how it seemed to tingle against her skin. A soft sound from the end of the aisle made her turn. It was like someone clearing their throat, but when she looked, there was only darkness beyond the reach of the overhead lights. Miranda shivered and slipped the page into her pocket, intending to examine it more closely under better lighting at her desk. The paper seemed to pulse gently against her thigh, like a second heartbeat. As she pushed her cart toward the main desk, the fluorescent tubes above flickered briefly. In that moment of darkness, she could have sworn she saw a figure standing at the far end of the reading room, a tall, thin silhouette that seemed to lean at an impossible angle. When the light steadied, there was nothing there, but the air felt thicker, as if reality itself had grown dense and sluggish. "Get it together, Miranda," she whispered to herself. "This is what happens when you skip dinner." Her voice sounded strange in her ears, as if it were coming from very far away. The library had always been quiet at night, but now the silence felt alive, pressing against her eardrums like cotton wool. But the page in her pocket felt heavier with each step, its warmth seeping through her clothes. At her desk, she pulled it out and laid it flat under her task light. The script was like nothing she'd ever seen in the library's collections, and she'd worked with texts in dozens of languages. The letters seemed to resist focus, as if they were constantly trying to squirm away from her direct gaze. Some appeared to be written in strange colors that shouldn't be visible under fluorescent lighting. A whisper echoed through the stacks. "Asterisk read, asterisk." Miranda jerked her head up, her heart suddenly racing. "Hello?" Is someone there? Her voice sounded thin and brittle in the vast space. The ceiling-high windows reflected nothing but dark.